everybody. My name is Allie. Welcome to the second episode in our series, talking about things that you're not seeing in the Beacon News. In our first video, we talked about the Pacifica Square development that's happening over on Route 59, and we detailed in depth the pay-to-play that is happening with the Madigan connected developer over there, the pay-to-play that's happening between him and the mayor. So if you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend checking that one out first. We'll link it at the bottom for people, just so you have a baseline understanding of who we're talking about here. Now today, for our second video, we're going to start off by talking about the same group, the Windfall Group. This time regarding the West Bank apartments that they're set to build here in downtown, right between the casino and the new pedestrian bridge that they unveiled over there a couple summers ago. As part of the redevelopment agreement, this piece of land right here is worth about $2 million, and the developer is going to be getting that from the city for free. And on top of that, they're going to get another $6 to $7 million in taxpayer funding for the project. And on top of that, the city is also moving to create another TIF district here, which means millions of dollars that should be going to helping funding our schools and our libraries is instead going to go back to the developer to help pay for the project. Now, unsurprisingly, the pay-to-play pattern that we talked about regarding the Pacifica Square development is happening with this development as well. So let's talk about it. So last year on January 13, 2022, just 7 days before the mayor's office would bring the development proposal before the city's finance committee, Eddie Nee's daughter, Judy, sent in a $500 donation to Mayor Irvin's campaign. The proposal moved out of the finance committee in a 4-0 vote and was later approved by the full city council in a 12-0 vote. Ironically, that was only 4 days before Mayor Irvin would announce his high-profile run for governor on the promise that he was going to clean up Springfield corruption. Now, later in the year, in July, the developer had another request before the council. They were requesting an amendment to delay the timeline of the project. That passed through the council, no problem. And that vote was actually the first time in the developer's 5-year history of working in Aurora that I could not find a donation connected to the council vote. Now, that was only 4 months after Madigan was indicted on his corruption charges, and Eddie Nee's connection to that case was revealed. So it seemed at first like maybe Mr. Nee was concerned about the fact that this had come out. He wasn't going to be giving donations anymore, or at least going to be stopping for a little while to lay low. But then in October, when the final development plans for the project passed through the council, on the same night as the casino vote, Mr. Nee was right behind that with a $2,500 donation to Mayor Irvin's campaign just 1 month later. So that's the West Bank Apartments by the Windfall Group. Now, on the other side of the river here, we have the East Bank apartment complex that's being planned. That development is going to be done by a company named DAC Developments. Now, DAC is actually run by the children and the family members of Tony Rezko, the infamous Blagojevich fundraiser who was indicted in 2008 on corruption and money laundering charges for his connection to a scheme that defrauded Illinois taxpayers through the teachers' pension system. Now, while Tony might be most well known for his connection to that 2008 corruption case that ended up bringing down Blagojevich, that's certainly not the first time he had been in trouble with the law. And in fact, he's got a long history, including things like getting caught using a black business partner as a frontman in order to obtain funding that had been set aside specifically for minority businesses, receiving business loans through funds that were obtained through an illegal gambling ring that his friend was running. He faced legal troubles in Nevada for writing bad checks and racking up over $780,000 worth of gambling debts there. He was investigated by federal agents in connection to a lucrative power plant contract that his company received in Iraq in 2005. And then in that 2008 indictment, he was arrested pre-trial there for receiving a $3.5 million wire from Lebanon. The courts were concerned that he was going to get a passport and flee the country, which his friend and a business partner had already done at this point. And the courts found out that the wire came from billionaire Nadimi Auchi, who Nadimi Auchi himself has already been convicted and faced time in France for his own fraud and corruption scandal. And he was also investigated in connection to the Iraq food for oil scandal that happened in 2001. Now, Tony was sued by the city of Chicago dozens of times for not providing tenants in the low-income housing units that he managed, for not providing them basic utilities like heat, including an incident in 1997 where residents went 5 weeks without heat in their building during a particularly brutal Chicago winter. Now, speaking of the low-income housing, Tony Resco was actually a major developer and slumlord for low-income housing in Chicago in the 90s and early 2000s. And every single one of his Chicago projects failed. Over 30 projects, they all failed, leaving taxpayers on the hook for millions of dollars in public funding and leaving poor, disproportionately Black and minority residents without adequate housing. Now, today, Tony is actively involved in the DAC Developments Company. In fact, Chicago's Crane Business confirmed that while Tony might not have a financial stake in the company, he is actively working with his children and his family members regarding several of the developments that they have going right now. So he's very much involved in this company, very much involved in their developments. So I sure hope that the future tenants of Aurora that are going to be living in this building here don't ever have to go through winter without heat the way that they did in Chicago. And I certainly hope we don't see a repeat where this project fails as well. So now that we know a little bit more about the company behind the East Bank Apartments, let's get into the pay to play that's happening between Mayor Irvin and this developer. Now, in summer of 2020, when the Resco family and Mayor Irvin started working together on the development proposal for this project, including, by the way, what they were going to ask the council to approve as far as taxpayer funding goes, a company called KR Development sent in a $1,500 donation to Mayor Irvin's campaign. And when you take a look at KR, you come to realize that this is just a previous iteration of DAC Developments. Daniel Resco, who's the CEO of DAC, is also listed as the principal CEO on KR Developments as well. And the name also appears on some of the early paperwork that was going through City Council. So it's very clear this is the same company as DAC. Then in April 2021, 7 days after the mayor was reelected to office, the company under its new name, DAC, donated another $1,500 to the mayor's campaign. And it would only be 3 months from that point that the development proposal would go before the council for approval, including the request for a new TIF district. So, again, millions of dollars that should be going to funding our schools and our libraries and parks instead is going back to the developer to pay for the project, as well as another $6.8 million in taxpayer funding as well. As with most projects, the proposal received nothing but praise from the council and was passed in a rubber stamp 12-0 vote. Now, later in the year, in November 2021, when the final details of the project and the necessary zoning changes the developer needed was before the council, that got another rubber stamped approval in a 12-0 vote. But 5 days before that vote, the DAC Development Company sent in a $5,000 donation to Mayor Irvin's campaign. 1 day before that vote, the general contractor on the project, the Trellis Group, sent in their own donation for $2,500. And then shortly after the proposal was approved by council, Mayor Irvin received another $2,500 donation from the architects on the project, Papa George Haynes. So to recap, that means that Mayor Irvin received $10,000 in campaign donations in 1 month alongside the approval for this development project. So that was all in November 2021. And the next month in December, the $5,000 donation that came from DAC directly was actually returned back to the company from the mayor's campaign. It's unclear why the donation was returned. However, at this point, it was already well known that Mayor Irvin was planning on announcing his bid for governor. So he may not have wanted the guy that was connected to the Blagojevich corruption cases in his recent donation history. So there you have it, folks. On this side of the river, we have the Madigan connected developer. On the other side of the river, we got the Blagojevich connected developer. There's something happening here, Aurora. That's for sure. Now listen, we definitely need development in Aurora, and we definitely need more housing to be built. But is this the way that we should be going about it? Should we just be handing out millions and millions of dollars as well as these 23-year tax avoidant TIF districts to the donors of our mayor so that they can build luxury apartments down here that does nothing to help with the affordability crisis we're seeing in the city? And is this who we should be working with on these projects? People who have already been indicted, who are already implicated in other corruption schemes in Illinois. This is who we're working with. This is who we're going to let be the future landlord of our citizens. Aurora is an amazing city, and there are wonderful people living here who really care about this community and want to see good things happen here. Aurora deserves better than this. We deserve better than this. Hey, thanks for sticking around till the end. If you found the information here useful, please share this link with your family and friends to help us spread the word. If you would like to see the full report as well as the sources used to create this video, you can find a copy of this on our Uncover Aurora Substack page. You can also subscribe to our Substack to have future reports sent straight to your inbox. You can also subscribe to Uncover Aurora on both Facebook and Twitter to get notified of new updates there as well. Stay tuned for more coverage.